I lost my mind one Saturday night. Pretty annoying, actually. All my mates had left town and I just got into a taxi when I realised the thing was gone. "Sorry, boss," I said to the driver. "I've lost my mind." I got back out of the cab, clumsily slammed the door and started heading up the high street, trying to retrace my steps, trying to remember when I last had my mind with me. Trouble was, it was the early hours at this point and I was a bit pissed. The paving slabs were wobbling all over the place, playing tricks on me, getting nearer, further, nearer. I wasn't the only one having this problem. I watched 3 young women walking up ahead of me. Their long skinny legs were bending in their precarious high heels, and all 3 of them looked like Bambi wearing stilts. If they weren't linking arms and holding each other up, then I swear a light breeze would have sent all 3 of them arse over tit. I was about to cross over a Highgate Road when I had to tilt back on my heels to stop myself from stumbling right into the path of a speeding ambulance. I watched it shoot down the road towards St Mary's Hospital. Its blue lights darted about the place, bounced off of the shop windows and reflected back and forth, made it look like there was a fucking rave going on. I headed first to Pepe's Moonlight, a cheeky little dive bar down one of the alleys at the top end of town. We'd had a whiskey for the road in there before everyone went off in their own directions. Not a bad little place, but very small. You couldn't park a car in it, and now, with maybe 20 people in there, I could hardly move. I breathed right in and squeezed through a couple of gaps, and I peered over at the table in the corner with 6 empty glasses still sitting where we'd left them. There was no sign of my mind. I must have lost it earlier on in the night. I crossed over and went to the Black Horse. They were wiping down the tables and stacking up the chairs. The old Irish geezer who was giving us shit earlier was now fast asleep, face down on the bar. That didn't surprise me. Looked like he'd been drinking since St Patrick's Day, 1979. I walked quickly to the toilets, found nothing, hovered over the table we'd been sat at, still nothing. So I wandered back towards Decadent 10, a nasty little club next to the pool hall on the old church road. We hadn't spent long in Decadent 10, and as soon as I entered the place, I remembered why. The threat of imminent violence was as palpable as the smell of sweat and Lynx deodorant. Little groups of big young lads loitered around the dance floor, giving each other the evil eye and tensing up their muscles. Every one of them was up to their necks in tattoos, and every one of them had legs too thick for their skinny jeans and arms too big for their cheap white t-shirts. The 3 fat drunk girls that were half dancing, half falling in and out of consciousness were only a few inches away from being completely fucking naked. I let out a sigh. I couldn't see my mind anywhere. I was relieved, actually. God knows what would have happened to the poor thing if it had been left unattended in that place. I headed into the toilets, pushed open a door to the cubicle that I'd been in earlier, and apologised for barging in on a couple of lads huffing lumpy white lines up into their noses. Back out in the street, I sort of swayed left and right a bit as I tried to remember where else we'd been. A couple of philosophy students from the university happened to walk past and I heard them chatting. "Like nihilism," the first one said. "Precisely," said the other. "The fact that nihilism exists as a concept is the destruction of its own meaning. Nihilism is a fallacy. It's not real." I jabbed a cigarette between my lips. "Tell yourself that once you've graduated and you're down the job centre," I said. The students carried on. I don't think they heard me. What did it matter anyway? I'd lost my mind and finding it again needed to be my main priority. I remembered that before we'd entered the tense and shady world of Decadent 10, my mate Trev had dragged us all into Mackie D's so he could stuff his fat drunken face with chips and nuggets. There was a police car parked right outside and a couple of fluorescent coppers were standing by the door like a pair of bouncers with that look in their eyes. That look like, what the actual fuck is this? They never show this bit on those ITV dramas. I thought I'd be interrogating serial killers and taking long drives through the highlands on moody-looking mornings, capturing the bad guys whilst confronting my inner demons with a string of intensely self-pitying inner monologues. They didn't say anything about babysitting a bunch of pissed teenagers, stopping them from killing each other in the same fast food joint they'd shared their 10th birthday party in just 2 general elections ago. Well, as my mate Trev said with a mouthful of chicken earlier that night, just wanna get fucked and have nuggets, lads. Fucked and nuggets. I made a quick lap of the place and got back out of there as soon as I could. It was madness. One kid was arguing like a right rude little cunt with a man behind the counter. Another kid was gurning so hard he was gonna rid himself of his teeth and be stuck sucking on his Big Mac with just his gums. The 2 kids in the corner looked like they were literally about to make a baby. I bet it's happened. So I walked back down towards the river, thinking to myself that I might have lost my mind down at the Horse and Trumpet where the evening began. I was just crossing the bridge when I went and looked up at the moon. It was a big one, glowing bright and pearly. And then I stopped walking. I couldn't believe it. I leant up against the railings, shook my head, smiled. There it was, my mind. It was up there, up in the sky, way, way above me. What are you doing? I cried out. I smiled again, had a chuckle. I've been looking for you. Come back down here. My mind was floating, almost still. You want me back down there, do you? It said. Yeah, I said. I let out a little drunken laugh. I was pretty amazed to see it up so high. Come on, get yourself back down here. Really, my mind said. I think, perhaps, you should be joining me up here. I laughed again. I shook my head. I placed another cigarette between my lips. How am I supposed to get up there? I said. You're being daft, you are. I looked around, suddenly feeling a little self-conscious, but there was nobody about but me. Come on, I said. I lit my cigarette and puffed a thick white cloud up into the sky. Come on, get back down here. Are you sure? My mind said. I nodded. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. My mind hovered a moment longer, up in the sky, up with the stars, up with a big white moon. Very well, it said. I watched as it slowly sank back down towards the earth. I shook my head and chuckled again.